Hi, I'm Lamont.
And I'm Hixon.
We're from the Santa Barbara Middle School Teen Press here with
Paul Conroy, CEO of Dyrdek Enterprises.
Thank you very much. Okay. What does Dyrdek Enterprises do, for those who don't know?
So Dyrdek Enterprises does a lot of things for those who don't know. It's a media company. We've got shows on MTV. We've got a show Ridiculousness, which is on MTV. We have a show Fantasy Factory, which is on MTV. We've got a cartoon Wild Grinders, which is on Nicktoons. We've got a professional skateboarding property, Street League Skateboarding, which is on ESPN. We own clothing brands. We own skateboarding brands. We own digital media companies. So we do a lot. Very busy working here.
Why did you begin working at Dyrdek Enterprises?
So Rob and I met each other back when I had an action sports management company, which was called Crush Sports. And one of my bigger clients at the time was a skateboarder named Chris Cole. Do you guys know Chris Cole?
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris was one of my bigger clients, and he joined Street League Skateboarding, which is the league, of course, that we own. So through representing Chris Cole, I ended up getting to know Rob. We struck up a very good friendship and built an organic business relationship, which ultimately led to me consulting for Dyrdek Enterprises in 2012. And then Rob hired me as CEO towards the end of last year.
Has working at Dyrdek Enterprises changed you in any way?
It has. I've become much smarter working at Dyrdek Enterprises. There's a lot to learn here. You know, I didn't have any experience in TV before working with Rob. Didn't have a ton of experience working with brands, with apparel brands or skateboarding brands. So for me, I've learned a ton about media. I've learned a ton about clothing brands. It's been incredible. And ultimately, the wonderful thing about working here is you meet so many different people, right? And all these people are very, very good at what they do. And there's just a lot for me to absorb from the relationships I've built at Dyrdek Enterprises.
How hard was the transition from like brand or music to like?
It was hard. It was very hard, actually. So I had spent 15 years in the music industry, owned a record label, management company. We produced tours. And by the end, it got very routine for me, where I largely knew what I was doing with all aspects of my business. And then starting to work with Rob, I knew very little aspects of Rob's business. And the challenge was unbelievable, but it also brought so much inspiration into my life. Like, I thrive on learning. I thrive on meeting new people. So for me, the stress that comes with not knowing what you're getting into is a far more enjoyable stress than being bored.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
In a skateboarding community, how much does skateboarding actually affect your general idea of work?
Wow, it's a great question. It affects a lot of what we do here. I think that the integrity that, Rob has from being a pro skateboarder and the relationships that he has in pro skateboarding really is instilled in everything we do here. I've never been on a skateboard in my entire life. I'm not a skateboarder, but I think that the integrity I have and how I approach business is how I was able to have clients like Chris Cole and Jamie Thomas and really fit in well with that world, which ultimately led to Rob and I building the relationship we have. So skateboarding is a generally very insulated community, but I think that if you're respectful of what skateboarding is and what it stands for and the people inside of skateboarding, you can be accepted. And I just feel like the culture of Rob's past as a pro skateboarder is just through everything we do here.
What's just the experience of being with Rob and his personality like almost every day?
It's incredible. He is without a doubt the most inspirational person I've ever worked with in my life. To me, when I see him on TV, it's hard for me to even connect the person on TV with the person I work with every day, because I look at him as this relentlessly creative entrepreneur, right? Him and I are so deep in the trenches on business that when I see him on Ridiculousness at night when I get home from work, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He does that as well too, right? So he's just incredible celebrity. He's an incredible human being. But for me, I'm so connected to him because of who he is as a businessman that that's really where I draw my inspiration from. But I'm also hugely appreciative of his celebrity being, because ultimately his celebrity presence is what drives a lot of the business that we have here.
Our tagline at our school is "All that glitters." What was something that you thought was a good opportunity, but didn't Our tagline at our school is "All that glitters." What was something that you thought would be a good opportunity, but wasn't?
Well, that's a great question. So, to me, there's always great opportunities to be had with any situation, right? And I think that, from the "all that glitters isn't gold," like from that phrase, I would say that, like, there's always a precious metal to be had on the other side of it, but it may not be gold. And I think that for me, every opportunity that I've had in life, I try and, if it's not going the way I want it to go, I just try and reframe what the opportunity is so I can have a positive takeaway from it, right? So I would say the most difficult experience that I've ever had in business, while I could take the aspect of like, oh man, there's not gold there. Wow, this is a disappointment. I reframe it and I say, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be, but here's how I'm going to look at this as a challenge, and here's how I'm going to make this a win for me. So like there's some kind of like payoff. There is some level of gold to be had with every opportunity.
So you try not to have any bad experiences, or?
And bad experiences happen, but it's really about not letting the bad experiences stick, and just as quickly as humanly possible turning those bad experiences into something that at the very least can be a good learning experience.
Above all the memories in the business, what is one that just stands out above all of them?
Wow. Whew. That's a good question. I would say for me that like there's so many incredible like moments that happen here that are really important to me, but more than anything else, the relationships I've had here. We've had so many incredible people come into the Fantasy Factory, and people that to this day are like a really important part of my life. So, if to me if it's like, what was like the awesome moment that happened at the Fantasy Factory working with Rob, I would just say it's a collection of incredible relationships and interactions I've had with people that are going to stick with me forever. Is that a good answer? Was that okay? Right. Awesome.
Where do you hope Dyrdek Enterprises will go? Do you think you'll like take over the world, or?
Wow. I mean, that's a great goal to have. Taking over the world would be great. I think for us, it's just making sure that year after year that we're being thoughtful about how we interact with, Rob's audience. And, Rob is, of course, growing, and his audience will be growing. And it's how do we just basically stay sensible externally with Rob's audience, and then most importantly, what we do inside here, like how we grow as a company, how we work together closely, how we can become more organized as a company. Like I don't have any mega let's take over the world aspirations, but I really want to make sure that we are growing a business that 10 years down the road is more meaningful to the people outside of this business and inside of this business than it is now.
Do you think Rob is changing due to a mainstream influence?
No. I mean, I think Rob really, he is who he is. What is in his heart is never going to change, and the amazing thing is about Rob, like the way he interacts with people is incredibly genuine. Like, we'll be in New York on a business trip, and we'll show up 20 minutes late to a meeting because he gets in a conversation with a kid on the street that he just wants to talk to, right? And it's like that aspect of Rob is, nothing that he does for show. It's just so deeply embedded in who he is. There's no changing that aspect of him. I think all of us become smarter working closely with each other, and bringing all the people that we bring into the office, we try and make sure we're learning from these people. So I think the learning is massive that goes on here. We try and make sure that there's always improvement in how we're approaching our business and how we're approaching life. But the core of who Rob is, no matter how popular he gets, he's not changing. He's unwavering.
Sorry. What was middle school like for you?
Wow. I was very, very average in middle school. I got okay grades. So are you guys in 7th grade, 8th grade?
We're in
6th grade. Okay, all right. So, yeah, so 6th grade through like ninth grade, I would say, pretty average. And for me, I was super passionate about sports. I wasn't like naturally gifted at sports. I am a reasonably smart guy, but did not get straight A's. I had good friends, but I never felt like I was like super elite, right? There were always better athletes than me. There were always like better students than me. There were people that were musicians. I loved music, but I wasn't a gifted musician. And I think that like what I've realized over time is that like, you can be elite and you can excel by committing and working hard. But like when I was in 6th or 7th grade, I got stuck in a zone of like, all right, I want to be better at baseball. I want to be better at, in my grades. I want to, I wish I could play a guitar, right? And I was never in middle school at the place that I wanted to be. But in middle school, I also didn't appreciate what you could get out of working hard, right? Like I think that for me, I got cut from my 8th grade baseball team, right? And it was absolutely a devastating moment in life, right? So I stopped playing baseball for like 2 years. And ultimately, I committed to baseball like 10th grade by playing for like a summer league baseball team, right? Ended up making varsity junior year in high school, ended up being first team all-league senior year in high school. And it was 100% a function of how hard I worked. And and I wish I knew that when I was in middle school. I really I wanted to be better at everything, but committed to nothing. And I think that, if I had middle school to do over again, if I could be in 6th grade, I wish I would have appreciated how hard that, if I would have worked harder, I could have potentially succeeded at higher levels. But, the other aspect as well, too, that I've learned to understand over life is just to be patient, right? Like if I didn't go through what I went through in middle school, it probably wouldn't have led to me to commit so hard to be, excelling at baseball or what have you. So, while you sit there in middle school and you're like, I want to be better at baseball. I wish I had better grades. It'll come to you over time. So if you're having a moment in time, it's like, this is a bummer. We lost the baseball. I struck out in the last inning, and this is a real big bummer for me to deal with. The reality is if you work hard and you're honest with people and you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to have those great moments. And maybe they're not going to be in 6th grade. Maybe they're not going to be in 10th grade. I'm 43 years old. I still don't think I've hit my peak yet. I still feel like, my biggest moments are in front of me. And when you're in 6th grade, it's really hard to see and understand all that.
Thank you.
Sure. Great question.
And that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much for having your time with us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you guys. So nice to meet you. So good to see you. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks.
Did you guys do the tour of the Fantasy Factory yet, or no?
Not yet.
Right now.
Why don't we do a walk so you guys can see everything here, if that works?
Let's go.
That was